thank you firstly to MentorWise for organizing this day. It's very, very helpful, and I wish I sort of had it when I was your age as well, because I didn't actually know about my profession at all until university. So, massive, massive thank you. So how do you want this to work? Should I introduce myself, talk a bit about my career, a bit about information, frequently asked questions, and then I think we should leave a lot of time for questions from the audience, right? So
Yeah. There
I'm
are a
going
lot
to
of
do
people
the
interested in economics, so I do believe there will be quite a few questions, hopefully. But until then, you can explain how you got to where you are now, the path you took, any advice that you would give.
Yeah. So are they going to just put them in the chat and then you'll read them out,
Yeah.
sort of? Okay, perfect. Right. So may peace be with you all. My name is Ziad. So I'll just sort of go straight into a bit about me. I did at A level maths, politics, and economics, and then went to university. I went to UCL and studied history, politics, and economics. At that point, I still had no idea what I wanted to do. Looked into various different things, and the line of work that I fell into was consulting. So, like business consulting, financial advisory, that sort of umbrella. Of course, you have investment banking and those sorts of things, but that wasn't something I was interested in. So I went into the more financial advisory, problem solving. That's what they call it. So if you want to problem solve, they say you should go into consulting. So then I applied to many, many different firms. And then, praise be to God, managed to get one that was in the top to 2 billion revenue firm. I had 7 interviews and 3 assessments to get into that firm. And there was about 3,000 applicants and 3 of us only managed to get the offer. So that doesn't mean I was the best out of those 3,000. Not at all. There's definitely luck involved, and there is timing, and there is maximizing what you can do. So I'll go into a bit about how I think I managed to do that a bit later. But yeah, that was the sort of journey into the firm. And then I was at that financial advisory firm for 2 years. People always recommend to do 2 years of somewhere before you leave, especially in your first job, just to show that you've got some form of experience and you can hack it, basically. And then I moved to an investment firm now, where I'm the strategy and growth advisor for that particular firm, because where I was before, that's called practice, where you are working on loads of different businesses and different projects. And then now I've moved to industry, where I work with one business and I'm just their employee. So that's been my personal journey and my sort of career. I'll just quickly go into sort of salary and progression, because I know it says that here. Consulting does pay very well. So the top sort of firms, if you've heard of like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, they're basically if you were talking about the Premier League, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool right now, they're the top 3. They're the big 3: McKinsey, Bain, BCG. If you are at all interested in economics, politics, or business, and you want to go into that line of work, you need to get on board with them as soon as you can. Get on their insight days, meet people from there, contact people from LinkedIn. These are the cream of the crop. And they pay around, like £65,000 for grads starting salaries. And it goes up and up and up. Ranging from about 50 to 70,000 pounds. And then after your first promotion, 2 to 3 years, you can be on 100 plus. And then, it just goes up exponentially on how good you are. Then you've got the like tier 2 firms, where I went to one of these, which is where they're just outside of that like sort of Champions League club, or the best clubs in the world or whatever. And then they're still like sort of in the Premier League. They're still competing for the same business. So they still, have billions in revenue and whatnot. And they pay between 40 to 60K starting, and then they go up similar to the others. So yeah, that's probably the salary and progression. And if you make partner at these places, it's multiple hundreds of thousands of pounds, but that takes probably 15 to 20 years to do, depending on how good you are. The general pros and cons are: the pros is you learn a lot, and it's a steep learning curve. But that can also be a con in the sense of you work extreme hours. Sometimes you can easily be working from 7, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night. Sometimes you can get a really easy project that is from about 8 9 a.m. to about 6 7 p.m. every day. That it's never really going to be less than that. You're always going to be working to about 6 7 p.m. At a minimum. But that's sort of the main con would be working crazy hours. A lot of the firms require travel as well. You have to travel to different countries or different parts of the UK, and that sounds a lot better than it is. When you travel to these places, you are like living out of a suitcase. You don't have time to see the place at all. You're basically just working, and your hours just increase because of the travel time. Um, so that's probably a big con. But some people like it. And then the pros are, yeah, you meet very interesting people. You work on many different cases. So if you're someone who likes a routine and routine hours and doing the same thing, I would not recommend consulting for you. If you're someone that likes things constantly changing, spontaneous, some days extremely, extremely busy, like for weeks on end, and then one week you might be a bit more free and whatnot, then consulting probably does, um, could potentially suit you. But I think the main thing you should take away from this today is that consulting actually exists. A lot of people don't know it exists. I didn't know it exists when I was at school. And so you can find out loads of questions and queries using online, or you've got my name, you can reach out via LinkedIn. So they're the main pros and cons. So now I'll sort of go in just quickly into how I managed to secure a role at one of these places, because I think that's probably what a lot of questions will be. How do you manage to do it? The first thing is, from day one at university, you need to realize that there are people already applying to internships and all these kinds of things. There's something called a spring week in your first year of university. You need to be getting your CV ready, your experiences ready all through summer. As soon as you finish your A levels, of course, everyone wants to enjoy that summer, A2 summer. But if you do really want a top grad job, you need to be on it from day one. And you need to spend that summer getting your CV ready, getting cover letters ready, all these types of things, preparing for yourself. Because the minute university starts, there's people who like to get ahead and apply early. You have to be one of these people. And then from spring weeks, you leverage that into internships. And then from internships, you leverage that into a grad scheme. Um, so that's really, really important. The second thing is doing as much as you can. You're obviously all tapped into MentorWise, which is an amazing organization, but MentorWise will give you so many opportunities to do things, and they'll tap you into loads of other organizations. Say yes to everything, because when I had 7 different interviews from 7 different people at a firm, they just want you to be interesting. They want you to have a story to tell them. And I traveled with various organizations. Don't know if you guys know Time to Help UK, but I traveled abroad with them, led workshops with them. I'd done all sorts of things with the organizations that I had at my disposal, worked with the council in anti-knife crime, and because I didn't have the investment banking experience or crazy finance experience, I was at a disadvantage. But I managed to speak about all of the other things that I'd done and relate them to consulting, and relate those skills to the skills that would be required for consulting, because I would constantly look at the companies and see, well, they want this in a person. I can show that through doing this, as I've done this. So if you haven't done anything, you're not going to be able to talk about anything or relate to it. So that is one thing. The second thing is a lot of assessment practice. So find out what these firms, how they assess you, doing research, go on YouTube, practice, watch videos, see how to answer it. McKinsey have this game called McKinsey Solve. You need to be like preparing, right? Just like you would prepare for an exam, and doing as much as you can. Don't just rock up to aptitude tests on 9 p.m. on a Wednesday and just sit on your laptop all tired and then do your assessment. No, you need to wake up early, get your preparation right, take it seriously like you would an A-level exam, because it matters. It's for your future. So that's general advice. I wonder if there are any questions now. If not, I can carry on speaking.
We have a few questions. Our first question is, which A levels would you recommend to get into the economics and finance world?
Look, I'll be honest. It actually the thing that matters the most is your grades. Like if you get, there's no set subjects that you need to do, but the main traditional ones are always considered, better. Even if you did biology, chemistry, and maths, you could easily go into the financial world. If you do anything STEM is going to be good, right? But I did two things that weren't STEM. I did maths, economics, and politics. I would recommend both economics and politics because they're not actually as hard as some of the STEM subjects. Well, for me anyway. Um, but I think you should pick what you enjoy and get A stars in them. That is the most important thing. A's or A stars. So even if it's drama, for example, if you're really good at drama, don't put it off because you think, oh, in the finance world, they won't accept it. Same with English. I know people that studied English at Oxford or Cambridge or English at university, and then they went into finance and consulting and they studied straight English. So they're not too fussy with your degree, to be honest, and therefore they won't be too fussy with your A levels. But if it's maybe media, that's I'm not saying that's a bad A level, but it probably isn't going to be as favored as maths, English, your sciences, economics, politics, and those sorts of things. But feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can have a talk.
Second question is, looking back, what skills or experiences made the biggest difference in your career progression?
For me personally, it was public speaking. So I used to enjoy sort of debating, performing. I used to enter a lot of public speaking competitions. I think that was something that really came through in the interview process. And one of our tasks was to basically give a speech or presentation about objects that describe us, which is a bit unorthodox. But because I had the sort of background in public speaking and that confidence, it really came through. And then the second thing is interpersonal skills. Now, a lot of these places you have group assessments and they assess how you work with others. A lot of people who are incredibly smart fail at this stage because they're too robotic. They're not understanding of other people. They don't bring people into conversation. They don't know when to be quiet. They don't know when to speak. They don't know when to listen. So, in terms of learning that skill, there's no set rule book on how to do it, but I'm sure, spending more and more time with Mentor Wise in their centers, in organizations that you have at your disposal, you are going to learn these skills. And yeah, go and try and do group activities or group societies and engage with as many people as you can from different walks of life. Because I know that sounds really strange, but that actually helps you in the financial world.
Great. Third question is, what kinds of internships, projects, or extracurricular activities stand out to employers?
Yeah, excellent question. Again, something is better than nothing. So, for example, in my scenario, I didn't manage to get one of the best. Look, the top investment banks are obviously incredible internships. If you manage to get spring weeks at these top companies that I'm talking about, is obviously going to be very, very favorable to the employee, right? If you're trying to go into consulting and you manage to get an insight week at McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, that's obviously going to be very favorable. But if you're like me and you didn't get those opportunities or you didn't apply to those places in the right time or you weren't successful, I went into property. I did a property summer internship. Now, that has no real relevance to consulting, but it taught me sales skills, taught me the professional environment. It taught me a lot of soft skills, taught me kind of how to incorporate property and management into my skill set. So I would just say pick something that you're really, really interested in, aim high, aim for the best, and then just work your way down. So if you are really, really interested in property, Google what are the best property firms. Okay, let me apply to the top ones. If you don't get them, put your eggs in different baskets. I don't know if that answers their question sufficiently.
Yeah, thank you. Final question. It's a unique one. What's one mistake you often see young professionals making when starting their careers in finance?
It's an excellent question. Very, very good question, whoever asked that. Nowadays, you are getting a lot of people that are becoming quite, I don't want to say passive, but you'll notice that even within these big corporations, like say the big four, right? KPMG, EY, Deloitte, PwC, you get a lot of people of sort of like ethnic minority backgrounds now because they're far more accepting of who goes into these firms when they're typically always been sort of like a homogenous sort of middle-aged white guy or that sort of ilk, right? So now these companies are far more inclusive, but you notice that the children of like CFOs and directors of that sort of old money English background, they do things slightly differently to maybe we do in our ethnic minorities. They dress very, very well. Their image is so important. They have their hair is looking good. Their beards are trimmed, lined up. They're looking smart, just like Ehsan is looking right now. Subhanallah. They've got their shirts on. They look clean, proper. Now they'll never tell you that these things matter, but they absolutely do. They absolutely do. It matters you turning up early and leaving late. These things matter. They will never tell you that they matter, but they do. They say, oh, it's all about the quality of your work and all of these types of things. And don't get me wrong, of course it is. If you're doing all the things that I'm saying and then your quality of your work is rubbish, yeah, it obviously doesn't matter. But there's going to be multiple people with good quality of work. And the other things is what sets you aside. The conversations with the partners when you have the opportunity. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Go up to the senior partner, be confident, be brave. Oh, I really want to progress in this field. Could you maybe help me? Could you dedicate some time? Can we go for a coffee? They will always, well, a lot of the time they will say yes. People don't make the most of that, especially I've noticed people from ethnic backgrounds, because we haven't had the coaching that other people have had in the corporate space. We just don't know these things. We don't know that it's important to talk to senior partners about the weather, about the cricket, about the football, these types of things, these soft conversations, they'll take you so far in your career. And so the common mistake I see is people staying at home too much, working remotely. Oh, I've got an appointment, I've got this, because they don't want to just go into the office. They don't want to sort of make the trek. If you have the chance to go in 4 out of 5 days, even if they say you only need to be in for 3, go in 4 out of 5 days, go in 5 out of 5 days, because there will be senior people in on a Friday when no one else is really in. And that is your chance to get to know them. That is something I did, which helped me progress in my firm very, very quickly because I managed to sort of, get a lot better of a reputation because I was in on certain days speaking to senior people when no one else was in.
Thanks so much for the great advice. We have just less than 2 minutes. If there's any final pieces of advice or tips that you would like to give to our students, we would really appreciate that. If not, we can finish off. Yep, it's 39 past. We have just less than 1 minute.
Yeah, no, look, please do reach out if you've got any more questions or you need any support. My name is here, so you should be able to find me on LinkedIn. My last advice would be say yes. Say yes to opportunities. That is the big one because it will open doors.
Thank you so much for your time. If we have any further questions coming in, we will forward them to you to hopefully get our answers.
Perfect.
Thank you
There we
so
go.
much for your time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So thank you for those great insights, Mr. Ziad. Now on to the next. If you're passionate about justice and making a difference, then this one's for you. For the law seminar, let's welcome Miss Maria Gonzalez Patel.